11 months ago, two studies called National Health and Aging Trends Study, which gathered data on thousands of Americans by Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine and Bloomberg School of Public Health researchers, had identified social isolation as a significant risk factor for the development of dementia in non-institutionalized older adults. Now a third study confirms the findings of the two earlier studies, while also finding ways to eliminate the risk. The latest study by the Center for Brain Research, or CBR, at IISc, involving 1,484 participants, 757 of them men and 727 women with a mean age of 62.6 years, too, has concluded that social isolation could influence cognitive performance and impact brain volume in the elderly, putting them at risk for developing dementia. Such lack or decline of cognitive functions is also associated with Lewy body dementia, LBD, a brain disorder that causes cognitive decline and affects movement, behavior, and mood. While loneliness and social isolation are interrelated, loneliness is probably a subjective feeling. A person can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. But social isolation is a more of an objective phenomenon. Dr. Abhishek Menesher, the author of the paper slated to be published in the Asian Journal of Psychiatry, told Deccan Herald. Further, even if you are not fully isolated, if you are not engaging in all the roles you are supposed to be engaging in, you are likely to be at risk of developing dementia, he adds. Two earlier studies had already pointed out that though it does not establish a direct cause and effect between social isolation and dementia, it strengthened observations that such isolation enhances the risk of dementia in the elderly. Findings of the first study, referred to on January 11 in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, was a long-term study beginning in 2011 and known as National Health and Aging Trends, and used data collected from a group of 5,022 elderly people covered by Medicare. All the participants were over 65 years of age and were annually assessed for cognitive function, health status and overall well-being. In the second study, published on December 15, 2023 in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, researchers specifically found the use of communications technology such as telephone and email lowered the risk for social isolation. Social isolation is fundamentally marked by reduced benchmark interaction with friends, family members, relatives and colleagues, each of whom play a role in the mental activity of a person. According to Dr. Alison Huang, Ph.D., MPH, Senior Research Associate at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, socially isolated older adults have smaller social networks, live alone and have limited participation in social activities. The same was also observed in the latest CBR study. Explaining why this happens, Dr. Huang said, "One possible explanation is that having fewer opportunities to socialize with others decreases cognitive engagement as well, potentially contributing to increased risk of dementia." On the other hand, Dr. Menesher says, even if you are not fully isolated, if you are not engaging in all the roles you are supposed to be engaging in, you are likely to be at risk of developing dementia. Cognitive impairment often affects the social network of individuals experiencing cognitive decline through multiple mechanisms. Some persons in the social network may become fearful about their own cognitive decline. This, together with the stigma of such decline, too results in their distancing themselves from individuals who manifest cognitive impairment, they say. In addition, memory and other cognitive deficits render individuals less engaging and stimulating companions than previously, often reducing the interest of others in interacting with them. Finally, many people do not know how to interact with persons who may repeat themselves or may have little to say, they add. In two reports, the Lancet Commission on Dementia Prevention, Treatment and Care too said that about 1/3 to 40% of cases of dementia, largely caused by neurodegenerative disease, may be preventable via changes in modifiable risk factors, which include low social contact. Dr. Mfon Umo, postdoctoral fellow in geriatric medicine at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, who was part of the December 2023 report, said, This study shows that access and use of simple technologies are important factors that protect older adults against social isolation, which is associated with significant health risks. This is encouraging because it means simple interventions may be meaningful. The technological aspects referred to include small and frequent tasks such as text messaging on cell phones, social media, and communication through email. These technologies offer promising solutions to reduce social isolation and loneliness among the elderly. Technology, as indicated by the first and second studies, would play an important role in curtailing social isolation of the elderly. Researchers from Johns Hopkins say a lot more work was needed to create tools that caregivers can use or employ to minimize risk. These tools include those besides modern communication tools such as cell phones, social media and email, which are already available. Social isolation of the elderly requires particular attention because, as per the World Health Organization or WHO, social isolation and loneliness in elderly have serious, and still under-recognized, impacts on health and lifespan. Besides triggering dementia, elderly folk who lack social connections also face a higher risk of premature death. Social isolation and the constant loneliness are additionally linked to depression, anxiety, suicide, and can also increase risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. Further, according to WHO, social isolation and loneliness do not just harm individuals, they also have a negative impact on entire communities and societies. Research shows that their safety, prosperity, and effective governance depend greatly on the quality of the social connections within neighborhoods, workplaces, and schools. Similarly, the CBR study says there was a need for greater public policy initiatives to improve social interaction for the elderly to reduce the risk for dementia from isolation. What this means for those of us who are younger or caregivers is that firstly, we need to strive to spare our time for the elderly around us and have frequent contact with them if they don't live in our homes. All it takes is to have casual conversations or get them involved in activities that cause social interaction. Secondly, technology offers an immense avenue through which isolation of the elderly can be effectively countered. Those who may not have cell phones need to be given one, and the device used to keep in frequent communication with friends, colleagues and relatives through messaging, emails and the like to prevent their isolation. The elderly who do not know how to use modern technologies also need to be familiarized with them. Finally, in some cases, the elderly are often seen as a burden and alienated by immediate families, even while living within the confines of their homes. Sometimes, even old-age homes are not very interactive as well. Those of us who are young will get older, and how we look after our elderly will also determine how we will be looked after when we get to that bridge. Let's put our best foot forward for the elderly. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have not already done so, please subscribe to this channel for cutting-edge health news reports and analysis. Thank you once again.